Hey, this is Anthony from Lucidchart, here with a quick overview of how our AWS import tool works and how you can use it. To get AWS import, you can either go to the File menu inside of a document, go to Import Diagram, and choose AWS Architecture, or you can also find this under the Import menu in your document list. When I click Import AWS Architecture, I'll see this import dialog. I have two ways of importing data into Lucidchart, either by giving Lucidchart access to query the AWS console APIs by creating a user in my account, or if it's not possible to create a user in your account and give it Lucidchart access to authenticate as that user, you can instead use a command line script. This is a Python script that runs the same set of API calls we run with the other version of the import, and it relies on the same underlying Python library that AWS uses for the command line tools. So if you have any box with the command line tools installed, this will work just fine. For the IAM user, we have a tutorial that explains exactly how to do this, but generally you need to create a new user and assign this inline policy. It's a more restrictive version of the security audit policy you'll already find within Amazon, and it only gives us describe level access to your environment. We're not interested in touching your infrastructure or getting read access to any databases or anything. So this is just a way for us to see what the infrastructure looks like and learn about the networking rules. So I'll click Next, and here's where I would put in the key and secret. You can also upload a credentials file if you have one for that user, and then click Import. And what we'll do is create a list of custom shapes here on the left in a separate panel. Now, for this example, I'm using some example data that we actually have available to all of our customers. So if you're interested in trying out AWS without getting permission to import your own environment, you can simply come to the document list, open up the template picker by clicking on that drop-down arrow, navigate to network infrastructure, and you'll see this AWS import demo template. This has the same data attached that you'll see in this example. So the way AWS import works is by creating a list of custom shapes that represent everything in your environment. You'll see that I still have all of my normal shapes here, but for now I'm going to expand this AWS panel and work with just those. We'll come back to the other shapes later. I'll start by dragging out an internal ELB, a load balancer in this case, and dropping it on my canvas. I'll scroll down to get a little bit more room to work with here. You'll see that as I drop it there, we bring in the correct name and icon. And also, if you open the data panel in the bottom right, you'll notice that we bring in all metadata that we know through the AWS console. So if you're interested in seeing tags or availability zone or VPC ID for a certain AWS entity, you can always see it in this right-hand panel. Now I can continue going through and adding things to my diagram by finding it in the left panel. But typically, particularly for a production infrastructure, you may have a lot of things running. If you know what you're looking for, you can search for it by opening up the search bar here. In this case, I'll search for analytics. And I can see that one of my imported resources is this analytics auto-scaling group, so I'll pull it in, drop it on my diagram. And as I drop it on the diagram, you'll notice that we draw a line between the two of them. This line is based on your networking rules, in this case a security group, that defines how these can connect. So we look at security groups and a few other sources of networking information to determine how your AWS components connect. If you're not looking for something where you know the name or you know some other way to find it, we offer a much better way of adding things to your diagram using what we call these expansion nodes. If you click on the red plus, we will filter all of your imported shapes by those that send incoming traffic to this node or receive outgoing traffic from this node. It's a very fast way to build out a certain portion of your infrastructure. It's particularly good for use cases like PCI compliance when you need to go a certain number of network hops away from a privileged part of your infrastructure. In this case, I'll select the DLB auto-scaling group and add that to my diagram, and continue going through that one or two more times to add a few more things. Let's say I need to see my document service in addition to the analytics service auto-scaling group I already have running there. And again, I can sort of arrange these however I need to. And of course, as I keep dragging these out, you'll notice that we always bring the metadata in over here. Now, a few other nice tricks. If you need to see, for example, the VPC ID or perhaps the set of availability zones that a certain autoscaling group belongs to, you can simply click this +T icon and we'll add that to the shape. This is called shape data, and we make it very easy to add that shape data to your shape. The other final note is that if you're interested in getting an export of your diagram, you can come to File, Download As, and you'll notice that there's a new option in here called CSV of shape data. This will give you a CSV file with a row for every shape and a few other sort of related rows for things like pages or layers if you're using them. And that way you'll be able to extract all of this information from your diagram if you have a use case for it in another application. We often see customers use this for things like cost modeling, or if they want to generate a pivot table explaining, exactly how many instances of a certain type they have running. So that's Lucidchart's AWS import. I encourage you to give it a try, either on your own infrastructure or with our example data, and let us know what you think.